However you are and whenever you are, welcome good souls of the planet and beyond to Paranormal Now. I'm Alan B. Smith. Join us as we traverse the cosmic highway of paranormal portals and tantalizing turnoffs. Joining me tonight is Mariah Kunau, aka Paranormal Concierge, who was recently featured on Netflix's Surviving Death. So Mariah will be coming up in just a bit. A friendly reminder, in the last half hour, call-in lines will be open. The Paranormal Radio app hotline is 855-472-5483. So in the last 30 minutes, if you want to ask Mariah or myself your questions, just call in to that number, 185-KGRA-LIVE. And then, of course, for upcoming show information every week, you can follow me on Twitter at paranormal_now or on Instagram at Paranormal Now. If you are listening on kgradb.com and you're not familiar with our YouTube and Facebook streams, please check us out. We are live in full Technicolor tonight, and so many other programs on KGRA have gone video as well. So if you want to hang out with us in the YouTube, Facebook chat, watch the video stream, go to KGRA on Facebook and on YouTube, and it's easy to join in the conversation. I'll keep my eye on the comments section as we go throughout the night. I'm not always the best at getting every question in, so I will try. And I know Bill Skywatcher keeps his eye on the comment section as well. And if you're the KGRADB.com chat room, we'll try to transfer your questions over to YouTube and pull them up as well. And a friendly reminder, as spring is just a few months away, go check out the UFO Monument Park. Some interesting news. So the UFO Monument Park marker itself is now a part of the hmdb.org, the historical marker database. That's pretty cool. So this park just keeps on ticking along, different updates, progress made, and the whole story is just disseminating throughout the public in positive ways, and I really appreciate that. I think the work that they've done there is great for the image of the ufological community. People are taking it seriously. Roswell probably is probably the most seriously taken event for the public at large, but journalists who have covered the UFO Monument Park have treated it with respect, and that's a good thing. All right, so just a friendly reminder, in the last half an hour, call the Paranormal Radio app lines. That's 85-KGRA-LIVE. All right, and now our guest, Mariah Kunau. It was only after many years of living a life in the exciting world of advertising during the dot-com years, and then being devoted for over a decade as a concierge at major hotels in San Francisco, Mariah's spirit ready to unfold and become the psychic, medium, and paranormal investigator she is today. Mariah has always been interested, intrigued, and fascinated with the mysterious, the unique, and the magic of the unknown. This included her early interests in UFOs, ghosts, and many other beings and concepts which defy logistical and practical explanations. I like that. The paranormal investigation part of her spiritual journey began 11 years ago during a trip to New Orleans. I mean, come on, New Orleans. There's no better place to get a ghostly acquaintance, where Mariah went on her first local and more genuine investigation at the Bourbon Orleans Hotel main ballroom. The guide allowed the group to use various tools to see if they could connect to a local spirit. She chose to use the dowsing rods, and that's when her life changed. Not only did that investigation spark Mariah's interest to go on many more once she returned home to the Bay Area, it's also when the spirit world decided her natural mediumship abilities were ready to unfold. And we've heard a lot about that from other mediums, that we all kind of have that innate ability. Some it's stronger than others. And sometimes something just happens and it kind of clicks it into high gear. Her abilities, which unfolded later on in life, she found just the right people to help guide, mentor, and inspire and teach her about how to be the best psychic, evidential medium, and paranormal investigator she could be. Today, Mariah finds herself not only being a psychic and medium devoted to creating moments of joy, healing, and love with the living and those in spirit, but she's also a passionate and dedicated paranormal investigator who travels all over the country to investigate the local haunts. Her main goal is to help tell the story of the spirits with reverence and compassion. It's also her mission to bridge the knowledge between the scientific world and the spiritual world during investigations. Mariah, welcome to Paranormal Now.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
You're so welcome.
So for those who are not familiar, I first saw you on the Netflix series Surviving Death, and I thought it was a really well-constructed series that took the subject matter seriously, but also responsibly. It wasn't, I wouldn't say overly skeptical in any way, but healthily enough. And you were a part of, one episode in particular. And so before we, talk about your investigations and the work that you do, what about you personally? Have you ever had a contact when you were younger that kind of, predated your more recent understanding of mediumship, that moment in New Orleans that changed your life? Did you have any strange happenings before that?
No, not so much. I mean, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I saw, someone at the base of my bed, or, they would see just a loved one, or, just all these different experiences. But for me, not so much. It was, I think I know looking back, that's the thing. It's like once everything's starting like coming into place, I'm like, oh, that's what it was. That's what I was seeing. Cause back in the 70s, you had those terrible the windows on each side of the door. They were like the crinkled orange and just this tacky 70s stuff. But I had that growing up, and I would always see a man, like the silhouette of a man. If there's a song there, but just pointing his finger, but it was just a shadow. And I was always scared at night to see that. Mm-hmm. But I never thought too much about it. I know as I grew up, I just kind of knew things. I didn't know that I knew them, but I remember my mom, I said something, I don't remember what it was. And she goes, Mariah, how do you know that? And I said, I don't know. I just know. Yeah. So I never, let me think. Yeah. I mean, when my mom passed, I know I saw her above my bed in little silver glitter, but that was before me getting involved in the investigations or anything. So no, it was nothing major. I mean, I always had interest in ghosts. And I know when I was in, I think 4th grade, there was a book, and I think it was an old book about ghost stories. And on the front was The Lady at Banyan Hall. And I just looked at it and I just wanted to know, I was trying to see through it and just, what is it? And so that I just always had a curiosity. So
what's concierge life like?
Oh my God. It was great. I'm no longer a concierge, but I worked in the hotel business for about 13 years in San Francisco, some of the major hotels. And that was it was great. I never knew about it. I just kind of landed in I didn't land in my lap, but it happened. It was during the time when people had money to spend. I worked initially, it's been a while. I worked initially for Charles Schwab in their media department. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people wanted to spend money on, we had a big budget. So the magazines and they wanted to wine and dine us so that, we could use them. And then I went to the agency side, and then you had your clients who wanted to wine and dine you and the publication. So it was just fantastic. So many amazing opportunities. Theater tickets, because they wanted a recommendation.
So you got to go. Yeah.
So I had, twist my arm, but my best friend loved it because the invites were always +1. Yeah. So, +1 to the opera, +1 to this restaurant. But looking back, I dealt with people. I worked at 2 big hotels, and at times when it was busy, I would talk to people, hundreds of people a day. Mm-hmm. And I had to kind of read them and kind of tune into, well, what did they want? You can't judge a person by their cover, so I had to really ask the right questions, like, okay, and kind of, if they wanted a dinner, well, what kind of scene, what atmosphere do you want? Do you want casual, more fine dining? What kind of cuisine? And just the list goes on and on. And also, not only, you have to also kind of tune into the personality, and you meet all different types. So I think that really I had to have, and I think that speaks for a lot of people, not only when they have to go through life experiences to get to where they are, or to for their purpose to unfold, or for an ability to unfold, or something to happen. I think we have to have our lessons and life experiences. So I had to go through the whole advertising world, and then learning that aspect, and then going to the concierge world. I had to have those interactions with people.
Do you actually spend time like in hotels, in theaters, on the job, or was it always just more of like something that you had to do, that you enjoyed doing? But
oh my God, it was the, I really miss it, and the industry's completely changed, and now because of COVID, it's just it's really sad because the hotel business. But I loved going to theater before. I mean, I have been going. My mom, oh my gosh, I'd been going to theater since I was younger, like 6, 7. Loved that. My family, we all loved going out to dinner. We loved going to restaurants. I mean, I'm really, really fortunate that I was raised with being given a lot of different opportunities to go see different things and explore the theater and the opera and just things like that. So, and I enjoyed it. So this was, it's a whole lot of fun too. I mean,
well, there's so many ghost stories in theaters and in hotels.
Yeah.
Did you come across any stories?
It was after it was the last maybe 2 or 3 years of me being a concierge, I really started paying attention to the history and of the ghost stories. I worked at the Westin St. Francis Hotel, and that has a lot of stories with Fatty Arbuckle, and if you ever want to know the truth, if you ever want to kind of get the inside of when you stay at a hotel, usually they won't tell you unless it's more of a hotel that's known for it. But I recommend talking to like the bellman service guys who work at night, or even during the day, but usually they'll sometimes have stories if they want to talk about it, but sometimes they're told not to. But I can't believe I did this, but at my last day, I went up to the 13th floor of the older wing of the building. And that's where they have all the storage. And for some reason, the door was open that day. And I think spirit, it's like, well, I was closing one door and opening another. So I'm like, wow, why haven't I been up here? But I was overwhelmed because they had things, because it was built in, oh my gosh, I can't remember. It was built in it was pre-earthquake. So I think it was 1902. Oh my God, I can't remember. But they had things all the way from the early 1900s, and you could just feel spirits. They're like, well, why haven't you been here before? And I'm like, I know. But just the historical aspect. And I went on my lunch, and I only had an hour for lunch, and I kick myself every day when I think of that. Why didn't I go up there before?
Yeah.
But going back to the theater, there's lots of some stories here in the city. Yep.
Yeah. Is there something about objects that ghosts attach to? What is that?
I think it's very rare. I know there's a big talk about it now, is it's kind of the thing to have haunted objects.
It's like a collector's edition.
It's a collector's thing, that, and but I mean, really, I think it's more of they knew I was there, curious, and I think if someone really loves an item, or there's a memory or an emotion connected to an object, I wouldn't say it's haunted, but there's a resonance to it. There's a connection. I don't like the word attachment, or it's something haunts something, because that's so negative. There's a reverence to the object. So for whatever reason, I think also I felt a lot of residual, because objects will hold residual energy.
Yeah.
So I know that's what I was sensing, but
you're also a medium, right? So when you're investigating locations, you're not just using, hardware. You're using your intuition. What does mediumship mean to you?
Wow. It's when you ask that, mediumship is really who I am. And I think it's when I use it, my abilities. And here's the thing, now you'll hear kind of psychic and medium kind of go back and forth and go, they are hand in hand. But the thing being psychic is someone who can tune into the living, who can tune into an object or a location. So it's my soul connecting to something else. I am perceiving information from something or someone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm connecting, let's say person to person, I'm connecting soul to soul, but with someone living. And whereas a medium, I'm connecting with a third party, a discarnate. I'm receiving information about their life. So I'm not perceiving, I'm receiving. So as an investigator, I mean, I didn't even know I had these abilities before I started. I mean, it was.
But that's kind of cool. I like that. It's like learning on the job kind of a thing.
Totally. And I like to say that everywhere I go investigate, it's like my spiritual laboratory. You never know what's going to happen, and you just experiment here. And then sometimes it's just that things work and some don't.
But you have a comment here from Anthony Simonelli.
Oh yeah.
Hey Mariah, you got to come back to NYC. We can investigate together again.
Yeah.
No. So NYC seems to be calling you, because I thought you were from NYC, New York City as well.
I know. New York City has a part of my heart, and Anthony, we actually investigated together. A couple years ago at the Shanley Hotel, and yeah, he and I had that place is just top 5.
Yeah, well, at a place like that, I mean, what do you rely more on, the medium ability or the tech?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know it kind of depends on when I'm with a group or other people. Because of my mediumship, the spirits know I can sense them, hear them, feel them, smell them, taste, whatever. So I really a lot of times I had to set the intention. It's always about intention, mm-hmm. no matter who you are or what you do. But lots of times I'll go into a place and literally I think I just use myself as another tool, but I tell the spirits, I'm like, hey, and I know there's so much to unpack here, but sometimes some spirits don't even know how to communicate with me or communicate with someone or communicate with a medium. They only know certain how to do things. And sometimes spirits know how to interact with some of the gadgets and know how to project their voice. So, you have to go in with, I think, in my opinion, and everything I say here is my opinion.
Sure.
But I think you have to go in with as many tools as you can, and me being able to sense them and communicate with them is just another tool. But going back to what I was saying, I will often tell the spirits when I don't know who's there, it's like, okay, I want to have an experience too, to see gadgets go off, to hear their voices, to see that they're there. That's exciting for me too. Because well, it's easier for us because you can hear us. It's like, well, yes, but if you really need to connect, then let me know you're here, or communicate with me or chat with me. But
so you're saying that for them it's actually easier to kind of use technology and communicate like that versus connecting to you through a psychic means?
No, it's easier the other way. It's easier for them to just impress whatever they need on me. But
okay.
It's how lots of times I'll sense spirit, and then if we have like a recorder or just periscopes or whatever we have, I'm like, okay, I'm like, if this is true, would you let us know this? Could you light that up? And or it's kind of like the cart, like chicken or the egg, who's there first. Sometimes I'll validate something that's going on, or we'll see something go off or hear a voice, and then I'll kind of tune into the voice and go, oh, they're saying this. So I'll just say, are you trying to let us know that you're unhappy about this or that? And then they'll set off the lights or whatever. So it's just kind of, it goes in hand, I feel.
Yes, there was it wasn't one that you were involved with, but there was a scene in the series on camera. This couple recorded lights going off, and it was in reference to, I guess, they were talking to their son, I think, or I can't remember. It was someone who had passed on. It was just like in Stranger Things.
Daughter.
Yeah, it was just like in Stranger Things. Like the lights just started flickering, and there was like no way that was just random fluctuations in their their electrical feed into the home. It was so bizarre. Is that what happens with you in certain places?
Not so much. I would love it for it to happen, but Bob and Fran, they lost their daughter, and she was doing that, and that is spectacular. I mean, if that isn't amazing in itself, it's like, but a lot of things and a lot of the phenomena we have, and I guess more of the communication is such on a personal level that people have their own personal experiences, and it's really sacred to them, and it's not necessarily meant to be experienced with anybody else but just them and their loved ones. So I think in some ways on investigation, spirits are they're experimenting. I think a lot of them are not necessarily connected to the location they are. I think some of them are just experimenting and learning how to interact and communicate so they can do it maybe with their family members, or it's just, there's always a purpose. I feel.
Do you think that in like the movie Ghost, that it does take an extraordinary amount of, I guess, concentration for them, so that maybe that ghost or spirits save it for those, like you said? I think you put it in a really eloquent way, and simply is that it's a sacred thing. So when a spirit or a ghost is communicating to someone, it's a sacred communication, and so perhaps that's why we don't see it happening or hearing it happening all the time. That there's usually a focused intent behind it. Is that what you experience?
Absolutely. I a lot of the time, yes. And it's funny, you must be psychic yourself, because I was just going to mention ghost. So, I don't know. What was that?
I'm definitely not psychic.
No. Well, you probably are, but you don't know it. There's, I think we all have instincts. I think we all have a little bit of psychic in us, but I don't know if it's been a long time that Ghost has come out, but I don't know if you remember how Sam, the guy, he had to learn how to move the penny.
Yes. Yeah.
And he saw another ghost kick a trash can. The trash can actually moved, and when he tried it, it just, his leg went through it. So he had to learn how to move the penny. So I know spirits, and actually I think, Lloyd Auerbach, I think, who I was working, or who was on the show too with me, he had a hand in that part of the show. So spirits have to learn how to interact. They have to learn how to communicate. So it's not just, you're not all knowing when you go to the spirit world.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And we certainly don't know where they're tapping their energy from to cross over, right?
All right. Oh, I know you mentioned the energy. That you'll have a lot of different theories about that, and thoughts and opinions. I mean, if you think about it, I heard it when they're connected to source. They're connected to the battery. Mm-hmm. So they can I think it's just the knowledge and awareness, like, hey, you could, go to source, or however, you have the main battery. You don't necessarily have to use us or use our literal batteries. So, okay. But anyway, I do think there is something to, it does take effort to connect. Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. We already have a question from the chat room regarding tech. Okay. And that is a good question. about source of energy, because sometimes people make claims of battery, being drained suddenly and that sort of thing. So that comes into play as well. And when we come back after this first break, we will share with you some EVPs. And perhaps after the second break, we'll get to some of the ghostly images that Mariah has captured. All right, this is Alan B. Smith for Paranormal Now on KGRA Live. If you want to find out more, follow me on Twitter at paranormal_now. And to listen to KGRA, you can find us on Spreaker or the KGRADB.com website. I will see you on the flip side.
Not try to capture how I feel and tell you the whole truth, but there's too much to be said, so I just leave you small clues. But now I'm burying my soul, and the soul of soul. Tell me last things, tell me last things, tell me last things, tell me last things.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
You're lost in a bad way, starting to let go, gone too far the wrong way, can take it all back now. You're lost in a bad way, I've gotta let you go. You're supposed to be so close to me, you're mostly a ghost to me, yeah.
Music by Septembrio. If you want to find out more about Septembrio, go to www.septembrio.com. Brilliant musicians, and they have new music coming out just around the bend. So as soon as that comes out, I'll let you know. And of course, call us in the last 30 minutes, 855-472-5483, the Paranormal Radio app line to call in and ask your guest, our guest, your question. All right. We are back with Mariah Kunau. And Mariah, I have to ask you about your last name. What's the origin of the surname?
Yeah, Kunau. I get a lot of questions about that. It's actually German. It used to be Kanowski, and they dropped the ski. So,
okay, because I was looking it up, and I got this German thing, but I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
They dropped the ski. Okay.
Yeah, and people think it's Hawaiian. It's like, no. I think one time in my life, one person said, "Oh, is that your married name?" It's like, no. So, yeah.
All right. So does it have any meaning at all?
Not that I know. No.
Yeah.
I should make something up, but no.
You totally could, because no one would know the difference.
I know. They're like, oh, really? That's really cool.
All right. If you want to find out more about Mariah, you can follow her on Facebook.com/The Paranormal Concierge. So I think it's an apropos name for what you do. I mean, obviously, it's a transferable skill from the living world that you have experience with into the afterlife world. Would it be offensive to call those ghosts and spirits non-living? Because in a sense, aren't they alive?
Yeah, they're alive. Just, I mean, in some ways, they're more alive than you and I. So, but they're just a person. They have the same characteristics that they carry on when they were here on the earth plane. So they're just another person. I mean, they're not another person, but they're just a person who just doesn't have a body. That's all. Yeah. They don't have the vehicle anymore. So. Yeah,
a consciousness, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they do have a consciousness. Absolutely. Oh yeah. It's just consciousness. You know, you can't create destroy energy. So it has to continue on. So
it transforms into something else. But how do we know that it stays sort of coalesced? Like our soul, our consciousness, whatever you want to call it, in that transference to the other side, in the passing, are we the same on the other side? Is that energy concentration of however you define consciousness, identical, or are there changes that occur?
Energy, what is it? Energy can't be created or destroyed. So,
Right.
And that's, a lot of, during my investigations, that's one question I ask is, what are you made of? And it's really, I would say, when I do get a response, which is, it's kind of quite often, it's always, sometimes I'll get, I don't know, because I really don't know. But a lot say energy. And it's fascinating. Then I ask, well, what kind of energy? But they don't answer.
Yeah.
But I know that just, being a medium, and it's just, I think people still, their true core, their personalities, if someone was stubborn in this life, they're going to be stubborn when they transition to the spirit world, into the afterlife. They're going to have that same personality, their same essence.
Right.
That's what I like to call it. But their essence is still the same. But what they carried, as if there was regret or jealousy or those kind of earthly, being a human per se, feelings, they're gone. They shed them. But I mean, this goes into a whole nother topic. But I think, for me, there's different levels of awareness when someone passes away, when transitions. There's level awareness. That's why I feel there's certain spirits that hang closer to the earth plane, or and also there's levels of evolvement. So I think a lot of who we are as a person here on earth, the lessons we learn, the humility of the life we live, the awareness and compassion, empathy we have just living this life, will allow us to maybe transition to another level of awareness when we transition. I like to say a lot of the consciousness, who we are, there's just different levels of awareness, and they see the bigger picture, spirits, or we see the bigger picture once we transition.
Okay.
What we think is so petty here, things become petty and not as important. Materialism goes out the door for most, I find.
For most, some do hang on to material things, or
well, kind of like going back to, they're connected to for haunted objects. Sometimes they're like, oh, I really love that chair, or or lots of times I know it's so varied and it's so different for all. You can't speak for all different people, all different spirits. So, but if someone loved like a chair and now it's not being taken care of wherever it is now, they'll be like, oh man, I just really wish, and for whatever reason, they love their chair. So there's always a reason. But sometimes you'll have spirits like, oh, it's just a chair, forget about it. So,
right. Emotion is energy, right? I mean,
absolutely.
So, and we can imbue, emotional attachments onto objects. I mean, we all do that. And I wonder if we actually, literally transfer energy from our emotions into an object. Is that possible?
I think we can imprint it. That doesn't mean it still exists there. There's not the consciousness behind the emotions. You can have emotional energy, and that's why so many of these locations, you walk in and you feel something. It could be anger or happiness, whatever, and people think it's a spirit. But really, it's just an imprint of what happened there. And the living, even now, can do that. I mean, it's just an imprint. So,
right.
We can put emotions and that energy into it. That doesn't mean we're part of us. Our consciousness is still there.
We have a question from the chat, and this is from Ron Radio. What is your favorite gadget to use?
Oh, my favorite gadget. Honestly, I would have to, I would have to say the digital recorder. So, I would have to say that first. Yeah, any kind of digital recorder. And then I would have to say, and I know I'm going to get flack on this, but that's okay. I love the SB7 spirit boxes. I love experimenting with them.
Okay.
Not everybody does, because the noise annoys people. it takes time to go through that, but if you have the time, I love it. But I would have to say digital recorders absolutely are
You
my
said
favorite.
specifically the SB7?
SB7, yeah, S as in Sam. Yeah, actually, the SB7. There's so many. There's different kind of, I don't know what to call it, versions, but that it's gone through different. Oh my gosh, I'm at a loss for words here. Upgrades, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it. Here's the thing: is I think there's so many different. It works well with me, and I work well with it. Okay. Certain people are more gadget conduits. Some people work better with just like certain. I'm just thinking just certain different pieces of equipment. Yeah. So I think it's all experimental, but I find the spirits like to work with, use the radio and white noise with me. There's something to that.
Well, I mean, isn't that like meditation, right? We all have different ways of grounding ourselves, connecting to the divine, whatever you want to call it. Some things work, better for others. And to me, this is all about, brainwaves and energy. So however you tune into something doesn't mean that it works for somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, so if you are dealing with an object that is maybe haunted, or it's a sacred object for someone who is haunting a home, and it's something that was theirs, a possession of theirs previously when they were alive, what's better for you to approach a situation like that? Do you use gadgets, or do you use your psychic abilities?
For that, to be honest, I've never come across that. I know a lot of people will, not so much with me, but I know other mediums will say, or people will bring in like, oh, this was my daughter's, or this was my grandmother's, this is her ring. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is, it's psychometry. If I held it, that's not how I work, but I know some other people work that way. But if you hold it, you kind of get the sense of the person, the essence, but that doesn't mean the spirit's there with it. And for me, if that happened, the spirit world is so intelligent. They know who they want to connect with.
Yeah.
So, and as I say that, something just completely fell in my kitchen. So that's just kind of, hello. That's so funny.
It's funny how the odd things happen when we're on the air, I swear.
Nothing falls. Anyway. I know, I hear you.
Well, do you get things at home following you home, or is it just like, are we surrounded by spirits anyway? Are there just spirits all over the place?
I think we are. Absolutely. They're not, I think they're around us more than we know. I mean, our loved ones are there supporting us and guiding us, and they definitely hear us when we talk to them. But I know because whatever I talk about, I can feel, because spirits are curious, like, oh, wow, she's talking about us, or she's talking about this or that. So there's so many rare things that nothing really happens in my apartment. It's rare. So that kind of makes me laugh. So,
and here we are. So
here we are. I know.
You're surprised often, right? I mean, I'm sure odd things happen. And are you used to that? Are you accustomed to, eerie occurrences?
Am I accustomed to it? I love it. So it's like, ooh, okay. So, I mean, if it was the end of the interview and I might do it afterwards, mm-hmm. I would get my recorders out and I'd say, okay, who was that? Who just dumped that, But then again, here's the thing, is what I also bring to my investigations is, well, was it spirit? Was it just something ready to fall anyway? And I just didn't know, it was just ready to fall. So not everything's paranormal.
I see. So that it's kind of like the Matrix with Neo, right? When he knocked over the vase.
God, that's been so long.
Yeah, but it's the idea of like, did he cause it to occur, or was it already going to happen, or both? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's and people who've investigated with me, I know, and I label myself sometimes the buzzkill of investigation, because mm-hmm. people will get an EVP or something will happen, and that's where I'm so grateful for the background and the parapsychology I studied under Lord Auerbach, and I mean, gosh, if you could take a class, I don't mean this to be a plug for him, but in some ways, if you could take a class with him, it just, especially investigators, it just really opens your mind and your awareness to not everything is paranormal, and to really look at the power of the mind and how spirits work.
Yeah.
We work through our own psychokinesis. Well, that's how the spirits work themselves, their own PK.
Mm-hmm.
But we could be the living conduit. So when we hear an EVP, it could be our own mind projecting the answer to it. That's why during investigation, you will never hear me ask a question where someone may know or the group knows as a whole group consciousness, because they could project it onto, like, well, what hotel are we at? Well, we have, I could project it. 4 other people can project that answer onto the recorder, because that's how spirits work. They're projecting the thought form or thought onto it. So it's always good to ask a question.
Okay, Mariah, I have to tell you this, because we're right on this subject right now, right? Kind of anticipating things, being connected. So I had a friend of mine message me just now, seconds ago, and was like, "Hey, did you see that show Surviving Death?" And so I just quickly texted her back, and I said, I'm on the air with Mariah Kunau now. And she said, "Oh my God, that's the episode I'm watching right now." Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, that's just not, I love things like that, because they're not just.
It's synchronicity. It's
synchronicity. It's not coincidence and synchronicity.
Correct. Now, are we supposed to learn something from that? Or is that just, what does that mean when synchronicities happen like that?
What does it mean? It's kind of like the same with deja vu. I think it's supposed to happen. You're at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to, you're who you are is, you're just at the right place at the right time where you're supposed to be. And I think that's just kind of a reminder also, something like that is how connected we all are. Whether we choose to or not, there's some kind of, I think the Chinese have that, we're all connected with a thread, like a little thread, some ways. And we're supposed to, good, bad, or indifferent.
What do you call that? Do you call it chi? Do you call it the universe, energy? What works for you?
As far as the energy or
vocabulary, like how you explain it. What is that energy? How do you define it?
I think for me, it's more of just the universe, universal energy, universal power, universe. Just for me, I think I take a lot of I'm not part of an organized religion. I have my own beliefs, which, fit in a lot of different boxes and different kinds of religions.
Mm-hmm.
I just think sometimes I feel if we have to actually label things, we kind of just get ourselves if we label things, why do we have to label things? It's just really neat. It's special. It's like really, wow. And so it's the more, you may not have even paid attention to that or acknowledged that. And so it kind of loses the neatness of it. But when you actually acknowledge that, another opportunity could happen, or spirit will say, "Oh, look that something happened there. So now we can do this with him." I'm not saying they are, but just there's more opportunities for really neat things for that to happen if you pay attention.
Yeah, of course. And this is Camille, who just jumped into chat. She was the one who texted me. So
okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So and I have another question here from American Road Warrior on this subject. Do you experience amazing coincidences?
I absolutely all the time. It's to a point where I actually had a little book of coincidences, and I just carry around, and it's just it would be full. It's coincidences. All the time.
Is it something? Do you keep a record of coincidences? I mean, that might be a kind of a cool little book just to put out, or something to share with people. Because I think sometimes when weird things happen, shows like this and other books and blogs, we need affirmation that we're not the only ones experiencing those things. I think it'd be really interesting to hear your log of what happened.
It's I think a lot it's just a belief in something. I know that sometimes, let's say, for example, so like someone just gets a brand new car and it's a really unique car. It's like, oh, I've never seen this car before, and now I have it. And then suddenly you're more aware of this unique car, so you start seeing them more. I don't know. I'm sure that happens to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, I thought my car was unique, but now it's. So I think just general awareness, but when something happens which you really can't explain, and there's just something that kind of shifts inside you, and you just have this little inner butterfly that goes, wow, that it's just. I think it's just really paying attention. It really goes back to just paying attention to your surroundings and honoring and recognizing when something neat happens, to just not dismiss it. And I know that's what happens when spirits, our loved ones have signs for us. They are doing their best to leave signs. And, if we just dismiss it as something as just, that's just coincidence, your loved one will be like, oh man, now I have to try something else to get his or her attention.
And is that draining on you?
What do you mean?
The efforts, that it takes.
The efforts?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's just kind of, you mean as far as paying attention to the coincidences and things?
Yeah, just trying to keep in tune.
It's not so much. It is exhausting when I go on investigations, because I have to tune in with fellow investigators. Mm-hmm. I have to also tune into me and what I'm sensing, as well as the spirit world and what's going on. And so there's that balance. So in that sense, it is very energetically draining, because I'm on all cylinders.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's more, I know a lot of people I hear say, oh, well, I've seen spirits, or I hear this and all the time. And it's just, I've had to learn, it's just kind of the beginning of someone's development. Or it's kind of like I've been taught, where the spirits will dangle like a carrot in front of you, like, look at what you can see or do and experience. And then they take it away, and then you have to kind of learn on your own. So you're naturally curious. It's like, well, what's this and what's that? Well, I just heard that sound. And so it's kind of opening the door, but no, it's not draining. It's just, it's not draining.
Okay. And to be better at it, what do you do? Do you do meditation? Do you relax?
Oh.
I mean, what is constant? Because for me, I know just in general life, like when I exercise and go to the gym consistently, like my brain just works better. Like I feel better, I can focus better, and true with meditation too. But mostly when I'm just like exercising regularly, that's when I feel like the best.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I kind of laugh because my mind is just always going, and before it's like, oh, meditation and yoga and all that. No, how could, and I know so many people are just so busy all the time, or just their minds are going, but it just takes practice. And the thing is, for me, when I kind of meditate or kind of sit with the presence of the power, it's more of the quality of the time I sit versus the length of time I sit. Okay. Because some people will sit for like a half hour. For me, if I get a good 15 minutes every few days, or lately, I know. Thank you for that reminder. But so it's really the quality of the time. And like you, I know because of COVID, I just haven't been out so much, but I love to go on a drive. I love just getting into my car and just driving. And so that's just kind of grounding, and it's just a grounding for me, and that just meditative for me, just to go drive. And
I'm with you. Actually, driving is like, I find it very soothing, especially driving at night. And in the past, when we, many years ago when I had a car, up until very recently, that's what I would, driving at night just feels good. Or even when my wife and I would go on trips, I like to do, long road trips.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know why it works, but I think through just life problems and other things, more effectively. But as promised, before we go to the second break, I want to play this EVP. Okay. And now this is from the Combat Information Center on the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll speak more on that afterwards. Yeah. I don't know if you want to have me talk about it now or.
Sure, let's play it now, and then we'll get your comments.
Are there any spirits in here with us? That's weird.
That's Morse code on it.
Yeah, you hear that? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to talk through the radio? Factors.
What was it?
It says factors.
They're saying that Morse code coming across.
I heard that. It's really weird. We have that on tape?
Yeah.
That's good. Because we never get anything cool. Can you tell us what that means?
All right, so I'm just going to play just the beginning again real quick. So it was Morse code I heard you saying on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any spirits in here with us?
Okay, so where did that Morse code come from?
So that was on the USS Hornet, which is in Alameda, California. And that was in the Combat Information Center. Mm-hmm. And actually, I just got the answer because that was a few years ago. And at the time, I tried apps. It's like, okay, what are they saying? What is that Morse code? And we all heard it because it was on a walkie-talkie. One of the docents had his walkie-talkie on just as white noise to use. And then suddenly, as you heard, that came through. So, we all heard it. So it was objective. And so it was just actually recently where I found an answer someone who was able to decode what was being said.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
And kudos to my friend's husband. I'm so grateful for him. He would say, because he was, I believe, I know I'm going to get this wrong, but he had said that the coded messages were sent out for fleet maneuvers, and he said it is residual. He said it appeared to be a 5-character grouping of code. He said it was certain letters, and he said it was like groupings. When the ships are traveling in fleets, because this was out on the ocean, mm-hmm. as the Hornet was, they use 5-character group codings that each ship would have a key for. So they would have a secret way of sharing coordinates and orders of where the fleet was. Wow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. All right, so we'll talk more about this. We have another EVP and some more ghostly images. This is Alan B. Smith, or Paranormal Now, on KGRA Radio. Thank you for joining us tonight and every Sunday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, stay tuned tonight. After this show is the Tracy Austin Show, and so many other brilliant shows on Paranormal Now can be found at kgradb.com. All right, I will see you on the Inverted Upside Down.
And you are the sky. I need to swim free, and you need to fly. I live for daylight, you live for the night. You love to wander, and I want to be right, but the sweetness in me needs the bitter in you.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRARadio.com.
I'm a mess, but a hot mess. Dreaming with my eyes open. I'm a mess, but a hot mess. I'm not scared of being broken. I've been going and I don't wanna be found. Go on and I don't wanna be found. I live for the
night. Welcome back to Paranormal Now. This is Alan B. Smith, your grateful host. Taking us out of the break was music by Lizette Xavier. If you want to find out more about Lizette, go to lizetteXavier.com. All right. Well, let's get to it. Mariah, so the letters in the Morse code, what are the meanings there?
It was more of just a technical from what he was saying, my friend who decoded it was the military. I just actually got this information yesterday, so it's like, oh, it's just again perfect timing. But he was saying that it's just I guess every ship in the certain fleet will have a certain code to it. So it was just something that was picked up. It wasn't it was residual, the Morse code, but still the fact that it came through and we heard that. And
it came through on what kind of recorder?
Well, it wasn't, it actually happened. We were just recording. And so that's just, it wasn't on a recorder. It was, the docent actually had the walkie-talkie and it came through the walkie-talkie. So everyone heard it. So it's just what that was you heard was just a playback of what we had captured and what we all had heard in the moment. So it was
a video recorder or like
a video recorder, just a video. I mean, audio recorder. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So you had like a separate audio recorder and then the walkie-talkie, and the audio recorder picked up what was coming out of the walkie-talkie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's fascinating. So is there any chance that there was anything nearby that could have put out a Morse code at that volume?
No, I mean, and also the room it was in, the Combat Information Center, it is in the very back of the ship where, so I think it was, if the ship was at war, something was being attacked, all the main military officials would go in there. They have all their paperwork and everything that they have ready to just dump out the back. So it was a very secret private room where no Morse code would be received or given in that area. So it was there was nothing in it. Yeah.
So there are no security details and buildings nearby that would be, I don't know who would be using Morse code.
Yeah.
Place.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. I mean, we don't even get reception down there. So it was next to impossible.
Okay.
Sure, there's that possibility, but yeah.
Okay, let's play the second recording that came out at that same event.
Do you have a message for Bill? What the hell?
Oh my gosh, that's Morse code.
That is
Flashlight was going off the Morse code too.
That is the craziest thing I've ever. Are we recording this?
Yeah.
We need to put this like on the YouTube. Like.
All right. Did he say the flashlight was doing Morse code too?
You know, now that I remember it, yes, it was actually flashing on and off too with that. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, okay, is there any way to figure out, what time period that the Morse code could come from? Is there? I mean, now that you have new information, you just garnered now, so I'm sure you have to research that. Do you think it's possible that you'll be able to find out the origin of that?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the letters that were given that my friend was able to translate, because we were talking over it. So there's definitely something we can find out more. Again, it's more of like how airports have the initials like San Francisco's SFO and New York's JFK. So it's like that with each ship. So
you might be able to. Wow, that's great. So please update us if you find out.
Yeah, I will. No, I'm excited. Yeah. So maybe I'll have my friend do some research. So yeah.
Now, is this common because we're always looking for voices, right? Human voices. Is it common that other odd sounds, audibles would appear?
I think there's, just kind of like the footsteps that you heard. I don't know, for the people who saw the Netflix series, I picked up some footsteps, which is funny because the reason why I was so shocked and is because at the time I told Chris, who I was investigating with, I said, you know what, I feel, and this is where I was incorporating my sensing spirit at the time. I'm like, you know what, I feel there's someone out in the hallway. And they're curious. They don't want to come in here with us. So I feel there was someone walking around. And then we did the session, and that's when I caught the footsteps. So that's why I was even more shocked than normal. I mean, it was really cool anyway. But I'm like, oh, see, I was right. So to get that validation is exciting for me.
Yeah. The Netflix cameras were recording you. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess they didn't hear the knocking. It was just like what was picked up on the recorder.
Right. Yeah. So
That's
why that is,
interesting.
and that's something I might have to ask about, see if they picked it up too. So,
Yeah.
but,
And do you think there'll be a part 2 of the series? Because it's a great series.
it is. It really is. And, there's just so much to talk about and just so much people have personal stories. I mean, I know friends who have amazing personal stories, and I know what they were trying to portray. It's just everyday people and just having incredible stories and experiences. I hope they do. I don't know that they are, but I certainly hope they do, because I think all of these stories kind of touches the iceberg of what's more. It kind of gives you a little taste of it.
Well, have you had any personal contact from the other side, people that you know?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of going back to the coincidence I wanted to, and this kind of incorporates a bit. The coincidence is like my beloved cat passed about 2 years ago, and I wasn't able to travel too much because I had to take care of him. He wasn't really well. But the first trip I did, I went actually back to New Orleans, and then on my way back, and I travel all the time. I've been traveling. I just travel all over. And so this was the very first time this woman brought her animal, which happened to be a cat, and she sat down next to me. And so the cat was in a carrier, and she put him under, and said, "Oh, what kind of cat is it?" Oh, well, what's his or her name? And this is maybe like 2 months after my cat passed. So she said, "Oh, his name's Bentley," and that was the name of my cat. So that's not just a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's something that now my kitty is saying, "Hey, I'm traveling with you now too." So, and I just broke down in tears, and she's like, "Oh, was that a good thing or a bad thing?" I said, "Oh no." And I kind of told the story, but so, I mean, that's beyond just coincidence. That's just something really neat. So things like that happen a lot to me. And, but so that was his way of connecting with me, wherever he is. But, as far as my loved ones, me connecting with them, I've taken a lot of mediumship workshops. So during the practice sessions, my loved ones are coming through all the time. And so I'm getting I'm learning about them. They're telling me things about their life that just explains certain things or why they were the way they were living. And, they need their own healing. It's just, I have a beautiful relationship with my loved ones, my friends and my family. I mean, it's just so neat. Like, I actually just had a class this morning, and my aunt and my uncle came through, and it's just, I love every single time. So I think I'm lucky in the sense I have a different relationship with my loved ones in the spirit world because of the workshops and things. But
yeah.
So I'm having regular, I guess, connections with them, but, so it's a little bit different than the average person. But my mom, boy, does she, yeah, she was a helicopter mom when I was living, and now even in death, she's still just like, "Mom." And I've actually had to tell her, and I feel bad, "Mom, could you let Auntie come through, or could you let my friend, come through? I love that you come through, Mom. I know you love me, but please." But, she has to come through for her own reason, her own healing. So, but she gives me signs. She drops me dimes all the time.
So it's for their own healing as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What does that mean?
And I can tell she's here now because she's making me all emotional. Because I think so many people have their own regrets and like, "Oh, I wish I had done that better," or, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or I behaved a certain way, or they feel like they could have done better in certain aspects of their life and their relationships and their heart connection with someone they loved. So, and then, or they may not have come to peace when they were actually living here. So they kind of transition, and they have that I guess regret, or that sadness, or that regret, that they're learning and seeing, oh my gosh, I'm now seeing how my behavior affected someone.
I see.
And so, or something they went through, or hardship they went through, they didn't forgive themselves or understood or whatnot. So, so they have to kind of share that and release that too. So it's their healing too.
What is that? What is the other side then? Because I mean, is it a divine? I'm using that word very loosely, but a more enlightened realm? And if so, are they happy there? And if so, why would they need to, ask for forgiveness or, repent again?
That's a lot of people have asked me, well, is my loved one happy?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more of kind of a state of, again, awareness. And, when they transition, there's so much just unconditional love and compassion and care. And, if someone was just not in a great space, or just, or love life and just need a little bit of self-love, and they didn't self-love here, their loved ones are over there going to do that. Just as their own guides, and just kind of just the whole embodiment of spirit is there, to just support them and energetically heal them with love and help them understand, like, it's okay. And so, my mom comes through all the time saying, I'm sorry. And that's just her needing to release whatever regret she had with how decisions she made in her life.
Right.
So, I know I've been told, and other mediums have said and written about, sometimes really bad people here, when they transition, they go to like a hospital, like a spiritual hospital.
Oh.
Or like they're counselors, or they need to go to a little bit of counseling. Like, okay, you kind of weren't all that great on earth, so we need to figure out what's going on. You didn't learn your lesson, so we need to kind of help you with that. So it's always supportive and loving and kind, and just it's nothing like, well, it's, oh, you did this, so now you're going to suffer. It's none of that.
Do they come back? Do we come?
I do. You'll have different belief systems, but I think I do believe in reincarnation. But it's rare, but I do believe it does happen. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Did you see the animation Soul on Disney Plus?
Yes.
Did you like the world? What was it? The world before? I forget.
Oh my gosh, the before something. I know.
There's like the afterlife, and then the before life, or something.
Before life, yeah.
So
it was
do you think
great.
there's something like that our souls are kind of come from this like birthing place?
It's funny because we always talk about the afterlife, and then this was like the before life. I think it was the before world, and I absolutely think there's so much to it, because sometimes we are just born. Our souls are kind of a little package of who we are. Like, oh, well, it actually was really, I thought it was brilliantly done. I'd love to know who some of the writers were of that, but we all kind of our essence, we are who we are from birth all the way to who we are now. Yeah. But our environment changes that, or enhances it, or takes it away. So I think we are really, who I am today. I think I can look back and say, yeah, I was kind of like the same way when I was 5. Or 20. Yes, I've learned different ways to enhance it, or change it, but I think I'm still the same kind of person. I think we all are in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, whether we get worse or better, our soul in the afterlife is the whole of us. But if somebody progresses in life and becomes a better person, when they pass on, is that who they are? Predominantly. How does that, because when people are coming back from the other side and talking to you, is it their better self? Is it the best version of who they are?
I love that question. And I know, and I can actually feel that the spirit's absolutely that question. And I know that's a fan. I think so. I think it's, I'm getting teary eyed with that. I think they realize there's an awareness of who their best selves. It's like, oh, this is how I am, and I really am. And I think a lot of that's like, oh, I wish I had shown more of my true self.
Yeah.
When I was, living. And, we have so many outside influences from the living and just environment and just our whole just living situations, and everything affects us. So it's really hard to stay balanced and true to who we are, because we just have different personalities. We have scenarios that happen in our lives. So I think when we almost, like we go back to who we really are at source when we were born, we do become the best of ourselves again. Absolutely. Yeah. Without the judgment, without all the life and everything else that was part of our lives. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then when we're born again, what's the point?
Well, again, I think it's, it's a belief. So whether or not it's, because I think it was the last episode, the reincarnation of the boy, but that was just a little bit different than being born again.
His was quite profound.
Yeah.
It was very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of detail that he shared of his previous life is just, to me, it's incontrovertible evidence.
Yeah.
And I don't know how there could be a skeptic after watching that episode.
I know.
But
it was,
sure there are, but it's like, for me, it's like kind of like the innocent until proven guilty. Like the evidence I see in a show like this, it's seemingly overwhelming. So unless you can counter argument with a legit, not a debunker argument, but legitimately counter and say, this is why he was able to do this or that. But I just can't see. If somebody in the 2 generations from now is born and they're 5 years old talking about my life and details of my life, what did the 5-year-old go online, find some person? And in this case, it's a World War II pilot. Where there's less information, online. And it baffles me. So what is that then, right? Is that person's journey to grow? They have to be reborn, and this poor kid, even though he's remembering his previous life, he's kind of suffering, don't you think?
I know. It's just to go into his little head. It's like, my God, what could you be experiencing? What are you thinking? And the emotions behind that. It's just talk about needing. Maybe he's just fine with, and that's just who he is. I would like, well, does he need counseling? How is this going to affect him? But I think it's very rare that we're reborn. I think it's, I don't think because the pilot wasn't really reborn, because he was the same consciousness was there. So it's not like he gained a new consciousness. So I think it's rare that we're actually reborn. I think we just continue our evolvement till we eventually get to source. And for whatever reason, there might be one soul that might come back. Mm-hmm. But I think to prove that is really
challenging,
very challenging, very subjective. People, I know for me, evidence is important. Like if you say something, we'll back it up with reasoning, or it's like, well, why do you say that? Give me evidence. Like people will say, oh, I see one of your spirit guides there, and he's, an old fisherman, Asian fisherman. Right. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but give me evidence that it is, if this, then that. Right. So but then again, sometimes you just have to have a belief in something, to where you don't have it, where a belief will get you through, a day, or just get you through life. And it's so personal with everybody.
Well, I think one way to look at that too is you can have a belief in something that is unprovable to somebody else, but it might actually, the belief itself might serve as a tool to another end result, which could provide evidence, kind of like what you do, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I forget some teacher I heard somewhere that one of my mediumship teachers is, it's one thing to say you believe in something, but there's another thing to say, you know it. So, I mean, I know that our consciousness, our essence continues on. It doesn't die. It's still there. It can be in many different places. Like I tell a lot of my clients, our consciousness is like the sun. It can be in many different rooms, in many different houses. So it's not just in your own room. The love can be in all different people, your loved ones, like someone lost a son. It could be there, or no pun intended, or a daughter. It can be in the parents' house. It can be in the grandparents' house or the cousin's house, the friend's house. The love can all be there. It doesn't just have to be in the mom or dad's room. And so it's not limited.
So you, like for you say, there's life after death. For me, I say, I believe there's life after death because I don't have the same experiences as you. So it's still, even though you say, it's still subjective.
Yeah,
right? So all of our beliefs are really subjective.
Yeah.
Unless we have proof, like catching an EVP or something on camera, then that doesn't rely on anyone's belief system, right? It is what it is.
Right. And even that is that's not really proof. That's more evidence of it. So it's not really proof, True. Okay. But I could also give you evidence of proof, about your loved one that no one else can know. Or I could tell you something that you don't even know. So it's not even in your essence or your thoughts. So you would actually have to go look it up and go, wow, I never knew that. But yet Spirit told Mariah to tell you to look something up that you don't even know. So there's more potential for me to actually give you proof that, yes, there's a consciousness going on. Yeah. But, you'll always have your skeptics, and that's fine. And it's good to be skeptical. I'm a healthy skeptic. Mm-hmm. I'm even, so.
Yeah, you have to be. All right. So in a few minutes, we're going to open up the Paranormal Radio app line. That's 1-855-472-5483 or 85-KGRA live. And Anthony, if you're still listening, why don't you call in, brother? I'd like to get a New York City investigator on tonight, and we can quickly chat and hear about your investigation together. That'd be really cool if they are still around. So do you have a religious belief system that you incorporate into your work, or have you expanded into other areas?
No, I don't have any religious belief whatsoever. It's more of, and I always tell investigators, you leave your religious belief at the door, because I think the funniest thing is actually Lloyd says this, like you'll hear people go, oh, I took a cross or I took holy water to get rid of the ghost. But you can't get rid of a Jewish ghost with a cross, because it's the belief of the spirit if they want to leave. And there's always a reason why or purpose the spirit's there. Yeah. But no, I'm not. I have a belief in, I think I taken like different beliefs from different cultures and, potentially religions, but no, I don't follow any religion at all.
I forget the name of it. There's like a historical term for it, but how humanity through the ages and time, we sort of pick what works best, and then we carry that on to the next generation, and kind of leave behind what doesn't. I think that we're still holding on to a lot of stuff that should have been left behind. We have a long way to go, but that's what history is, right? And it kind of sounds like that philosophy works with the spiritual realm and the paranormal and religion. Because if you look at something and you think that doesn't quite make sense or doesn't quite work, I think it's nice that you can grab a piece of something else and pull that into your own personal paradigm for making peace with the world that we live in.
I think knowing about different religions and being educated about different religions is really important, because then that just gives you more frame of reference of connecting with whoever's there, or even, with people you're investigating with. I mean, there are many times when we've been investigating and we hear spirit through the spirit box saying, I need a Bible. Where's a Bible? And everyone laughs like, well, clearly she's not talking to Mariah. But they could be addressing somebody else. So, I don't dismiss that at all. And it's like, okay, well, help me learn. What Bible do you want? What version, the New or Old Testament? What do you need? So I just think the more the better investigator you can be. So.
Right. Okay. So I want to show these images here.
Okay.
This is Angel Island.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell us about this image?
So this was even before I was involved in investigating. Angel Island out here in the Bay, in San Francisco Bay.
And that's
yes.
I'm sorry. I just want to clarify for listeners who aren't watching. This is an orb that we're looking at, right?
Oh yes, I know. I forgot. So it's taken during the daylight. And Angel Island is like the West Coast Ellis Island. So a lot of the Chinese came through here.
Mm-hmm.
Really historic. It's World War II. Even there's Civil War buildings left. The only wooden Civil War buildings are still here. But anyway, this was just on a tour, and I was just taking a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is in the background. And then what you're seeing is it's full daylight, and there's this little light anomaly just streaking through. And I just happened to see it when I was going through pictures, and then I blew it up, and it's really kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see a face or something. But I think I just had this and sent this to you. I just wanted to show it because you can capture spirits in the daylight. It's not always in the dark. It's just whenever they're there, they're all around us, like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. I don't know who it is. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't, I didn't need a flash. So, I am a firm believer. It depends, but I think a lot of spirits need to have their own light source. So you don't need to enhance it with a flash.
Right. That makes sense. And, because orbs that have been seen at with people's own eyes too, not necessarily just on camera. How do we know it's not like a dust particle, or like you said, obviously it's not a bird, or a light flare or something like that?
Mm-hmm. I had other pictures. I was taking a whole bunch of them, so that was the only one that appeared on that. And again, there was no flash, and you can kind of see faces in it. It's different, and it's not dust. It can't be dust. So
well, it has that trail too, that light trail.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's from the aperture on the camera. Because it was moving faster than the aperture can catch it. So the shutter speed just wasn't fast enough. So that we don't know what the shutter speed is, but my guess is, that it's not a dust particle, because it would have to move pretty quick. And it looks quite cylindrical. So it's really interesting. This is fascinating. So can you tell us a story about this Etch-a-Sketch?
Yeah, again, you'll hear me talk about him because he just has such an influence of guidance. So Lloyd Auerbach suggested a long time ago to take an Etch-a-Sketch. I think at one of his investigations, he took an Etch-a-Sketch, and so this was in Virginia City at the in the miners' cabin at the Gold Hill Hotel, and there were two of us investigating. And the cabin, you have two bedrooms. In the middle is the kitchen area and the dining, and then you have one end, one bedroom, and one kind of another bedroom with a bed. So we were in one bedroom. We put this Etch-a-Sketch down on the one bed, which the room we weren't in at the time. And it took a half hour to try and get these pictures. So hopefully this one came up. But for those who can see it, who are not, or are listening, we all know how difficult it is to do cursive on an Etch-a-Sketch.
Right.
So what you're seeing here is, it's so faint, but there is a word, or I won't say what it is, and but there's what I think it is, right? But there's a word that's written in cursive,
right? And
then to the right of it, it looks like an American flag, because it's kind of hard to see in this, but there are little dots where the stars should be.
Right. Well, for those who are watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you just go full screen, that might help you to see a little bit better.
And then there's a darker upside down L, which is what, when you move the knobs, that's what actually shows up. So that's, when you make the own lines yourself.
When you physically grab the knob, you as a human being, and you turn the knob, it's the effect that you get, the darker line.
The darker line,
The lighter
so I put
line.
that. The Etch-a-Sketch had never been used. Oh, that's a better one. Yeah. The Etch-a-Sketch had never been used. And so we were doing some sessions or whatever in the one bedroom. We came back and I just, for kicks, I look at it and it's like, oh my goodness, there's writing, and I was just freaking out. And so it's just, for me, I think this is one of my best pieces of evidence I've ever captured. It's in cursive. I think we spent like another hour trying to figure out who wrote it. And it was probably at this point like 2 a.m. We were exhausted, but and so clearly it's in cursive. I mean, there's an H there for those who can see it. It's hard to make a cursive H.
So it looks like a CH in the beginning.
CH. For me, in person, what do you think? What do you see, Alan?
The first thing I saw was chive, but
chive, yeah.
Food is always on my mind. So
when I first saw it, I thought it said here. But
like,
then
see here or shy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
I was just freaking out when I first saw it. So, but then, we took time. And so I think it says Sherry, CHERIE. But the flag.
Yeah, the cursive R. I see the cursive R clearly now that you say that. That makes sense. Okay.
So, and then the flag itself is just really cool. And then just outside, the next day, walked outside, and then that was the view of those 2 flags.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get up there, and I actually just recently tried to get up there. It's like a waterworks or something, but I just haven't had enough time to just go up and see what's there. But I just thought that was really, again, coincidental that there would be a flag right there when that's right outside of the cabin when you look up on the hill. So, I love that. And we also had a smaller Etch-a-Sketch too, and there was a single line on that one. That wasn't
okay. So we've got our first call in. Anthony, welcome to Paranormal Now.
Hello.
Hey, Anthony, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Is Anthony from Queens?
This is Anthony from Queens, yes.
Well, I'm right down the road from you. Hey.
Where are you from?
I'm in Queens.
You're in Queens?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Oh, cool. We're in Queens.
In Long Island City area.
Oh, okay. I'm in Fresh Meadows.
Okay, very nice. Yeah. So,
college.
Yeah. So, tell us about your investigation experience with Mariah.
It was interesting that night. It really was. She introduced me to scrying, and we got some stuff out of that. It's some of us looking like old men, and some of us looking like women, and it was like a whole different experience. I never did. I've been paranormal investigator for over 30 somewhat years.
Yeah.
And so that was a new thing for me to learn. So, we went to Summer Mansion, and it was a good night, a very good night.
Have you, on your scale of experiences, where does it land? I mean, have you had, sightings of your own, or have all of your encounters been EVPs and photos?
Well, I started out, I'm a sensitive. So I've been experiencing things since I was a little kid.
Okay.
So it was very, as I got older, I'm much older. So like I started experiencing stuff in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and couldn't talk about it. So as you got older, that's how I got into the paranormal with I experienced so much being sensitive and going into these really haunted locations. It's very interesting.
Do you ever go into people's homes in our area at all?
Yes. Well, I'm doing an investigation in Long Island right now at a private home of a woman that's keep on getting attacked by something. She's getting coming with scratches and stuff like that, and her daughter's having very bad experiences. You see, even affecting the animals.
So yeah, Mariah, that's a good question. We didn't cover, right? So, have you had experiences where people are harmed by spirits or ghosts?
I haven't, but I know I've heard of cases, and to be honest, it's I find it's a psychological. It's a lot of times the person for they're almost manifesting it. I know there are a lot of cases where people will have bruising, and for their own things, they've gone through something really traumatic or going through something traumatic, and it's they project it themselves. And so a lot of it, I find I would say 9 out of 9.5 cases I've gone on, the person is the conduit. So there's just their own anxiety and stress and worry that's making things happen, and that's why it's always important to find out the source of what's creating what.
Do you think they're making what happened and that using an entity to do it, or is it just like their mind over matter thing?
It's their mind over matter. I often will, sometimes on cases, I'll see a spirit there and they're like, no, I'm here just watching it unfold, but it's not me. I know it's just a lot of, it's their own mind over matter, like you said, and, or not understanding something. And lots of times it's fear. Fear can make something so much worse than it is. And it's almost like you pack fear on the fear and it's their own emotions, anxiety. So, yeah. So,
Anthony, do you share the same opinion, or do you think it's ghosts when you have these physical manifestations?
I share some of that because I experienced being attacked on investigations and stuff like that too. I've been attacked many times, scratched and everything and burnt. But when she's right with a majority of when you do a private investigation, something is going on in that house that they manifest their own stuff. You know, the scratching and everything, you know, it might be them doing it at nighttime. They're scratching and they're scratching their arm, then they wake up and say, oh, I got scratches or bruises or something like that. But yeah, when you go into a private investigation, you really got to get the state of mind of the person. And you still got to work. You work with them if it's a manifestation or if it's not. You know, sometimes people need that cleaning of their mind, saying, okay, they're blaming it on ghosts, and then, okay, the ghost is gone, and they feel much better, and whatever it is gone. If they did it themselves or whatnot. So, yeah, you have to, when you go into a private investigation, you really have to go with the person's state of mind.
Yeah.
And see if they're doing it themselves.
Anthony, what did you think about Surviving Death? Did you watch the series?
No. Matter of fact, this is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Oh, okay.
Tonight. So I'm going to be watching it and see what's it all about. It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a really fantastic series. I think it's 8 episodes, Mariah.
6.
6. Okay.
Yeah.
6. Okay, I gotta check it out. Because I was just on Paranormal Night Shift. Paranormal Night Shift. I'm on it's the first season. It's I'm on the episode 13.
Very cool. All right. I'm gonna write that down. Paranormal Night Shift, episode 13. Okay.
Yeah, episode 13. Yeah, it's on Travel Channel. They also have it on Hulu.
Yeah, great. Hey, before we let you go, do you have any anything you want to share with us, or a question for Mariah?
Well, I want to know once you come back to New York, so we go investigate together.
I know. I will. Once this COVID starts getting a little bit more in control, it's one of my first places I'll be going. So don't you worry.
A lot of stuff was canceled because of investigation. You know, we got to cancel a lot of stuff because of the COVID. So
yeah,
I understand that.
All right, cool. Thanks so much for calling in. Appreciate it. Anthony, have a good night.
All right. Thank you. And
Thank you.
young Queens, keep in touch.
Indeed, we will. Thank you. All right, take care, Anthony. All right, yeah. So, see, I love the paranormal community. I love you guys are, from one coast to the other. You've worked together. What's your impression with other paranormal investigators that you've worked with overall?
It was fun, and I actually forgot that we did that. I always try and bring something new to investigation, and because you see kind of the same old as far as you do the EVP sessions and you do this and that. But what he was bringing up with scrying was what I was doing is I also work with red light and giving the opportunity for spirits to show their faces on the living. And everyone can do it. And everyone can usually see it with a little bit of training and experience. But sometimes everyone can see it. So it's not just one person. So you just sit in a space, and then I'll hold the flashlight because I can kind of tell what's the ideal lighting. And so someone will sit, and then the others will kind of stay maybe about 4 or 5 feet away. Mm-hmm. And then you just ask for spirit to show up over their faces. It's overlaying. And so everyone can have this experience. So, and the spirits love it because then they can show themselves again. And then the investigators have an experience that they probably haven't had before. So it's just another way of connecting with and seeing who's there. Yeah. I know sometimes a loved one, and that's the thing with these investigations, loved ones will want to show up on the investigations, however they want to. Mm-hmm. So I think there's so much fear I find in this field when really or even in private cases, it's like, well, have you ever thought it might just be a loved one? Or in investigations, it's like your loved ones are taking this opportunity to come through and connect because you're open to it. You're open to it. So I love working with different investigators. I'm always open to learning new techniques or thoughts or approaches or beliefs, and when you just have that right group, I mean, it can be amazing. It just, that night it was a really great night. And it's also neat for me because and I think everyone who's interested in investigations has an innate psychic ability.
Yeah.
And it's just bringing that to the forefront and giving them that opportunity to have them explore in a safe space. When I say safe space, meaning no, there's not going to be any judgment, and so they can practice their abilities.
Is it kind of like jazz, where you have investigators that it's those magical moments where you just find the groove that's like perfect?
Oh, absolutely. And those nights are the best. It's like, sometimes if you go in breakout groups, and then one group is like, oh, we didn't get anything, and then the other was like, you did it! Oh my God! I mean, it's just the just syncing up, and it's. I think just when it's just the right time, the right people, it can be an amazing experience. Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen to our culture post COVID. Maybe beginning in the summer or fall, because I think you're going to have billions of people who are all just going to be ecstatic to be around other people again, and doing things, going on adventures, living life, and really appreciating it. Perhaps in a way they didn't before. And I just wonder if there'll be some sort of collective energy that kind of swells.
I'm kind of excited for that because I know when COVID hit in March, I mean, there was a collective energy of, oh my goodness, I think everybody could feel it. I mean, you don't have to be sensitive to sense the panic and fear and sadness, and even still now. Mm-hmm. But almost the joy that's going to be felt, and like you said, of when people are able to go out again, and it's just like, wow. And how is that? We all, as a group consciousness and group power and energy, how is that going to affect the spirit world? I'm sure some of them are like, oh, great, just like people. Oh, great. And then we're like, oh, here come the people again. We were so happy that they were gone. It's like the introverts and extroverts of the spirit world. So.
Right, because there's an interaction there.
Yeah.
So we have our second caller, Ronald from Minnesota. You are on the air. Hey, Ron, are you there?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Sorry about that. I had it trying to listen. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Are you there?
Yep. And do you have a question for Mariah?
Yeah. How you doing, Mariah? Mariah.
Hi,
Great
Ronald.
show, Alan. Again, you did it with a great guest again. I don't know how you do it, but anyway, I was there at Pine Bush a couple of years ago. Didn't have anything last year, of course, but I was there in 2019 when they had Pine Bush there, and I stayed with Bill, the producer there at his house. Actually, I did that 2 years in a row, and what a great bunch of people there, and everyone is takes everything, the UFO world and the paranormal world, they take it very seriously. Some have had experiences, others are still looking for that first experience. So my question to even you, Alan, my question to you, Mariah, would be, I don't remember you talking about when you got attracted to the paranormal or ghost hunting. Were you born with this instinct, or did you learn to grow with it?
I think I always had the curiosity that was always there. And I think it was just over time. I mean, I liked watching the shows, I think The Unexplained, some of the older shows. And then now the more recent reality ghost shows started appearing. So I think I always had that curiosity. And then I know I went to New Orleans and went on my first investigation, and then I was hooked. It's like, oh, this is a real one. This is not just, full of stories. It was a real one. And then I live in the Bay Area, and so there was a group called the Bay Area Ghost Hunters, and they had a lot of great events. So I'm thankful for the organizer who put things together. So it started off as a hobby and an interest, but then the spirit world was like, okay, well, she's ready to work with us and for us. So it was later in life that really it unfolded. So, but I've always been curious.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work. I'm going to have to look at that show myself. I have Netflix, so I'm going to have to look at that show.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks for all your work that you do. Thank you, Ellen, for your show. And every week you always have a wonderful guest.
Thanks, Ron.
And
thanks for calling.
Thank you, Bill, for taking the call. Have a great night.
Okay, you too, Ron. Thank you. So my interest in what you do, Mariah, has always been from the outside looking in. But as of late, I'm getting a little more curious about going on site myself and just trying some things out. And I think that's a side effect of COVID pandemic, being stuck, not being able to do things. You kind of want to do things and go on little adventures. But there is always that fear, at least for me, of bringing home something that I shouldn't bring home. So, with all the investigators out there, as earnest as many of them are, they do have different opinions. And do you think there are such things as demon spirits that can attach to you and all that kind of stuff?
No, I don't. It's one of those things where if you believe it, it'll happen, but that doesn't mean it's true. I do, however, that being said, and really quickly, I know we're running out of time, but I will incorporate, demons are a religious belief. And so, yes, there are absolutely, for every force, you have an equal but opposite force. So you have your good and your bad. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just not 9 times out of 10, it's just a frustrated spirit. It's an angry spirit. It could even be a tulpa. It could just be a manifestation of what we bring to a location. But yes, I have encountered some really energies, because I don't like calling spirits energy, but they are energy, but some unknown feelings that like, okay, this isn't great. And I'm not going to go down there because there's no purpose of it. I know there's I guess you could say darker forces, and there are lighter forces. Mm-hmm. But as far as when spirits come home, it's all you set that intention. After every investigation, I go, okay, thank you for communicating, but you do not have my permission to come home with me in my mind, my heart, my body, and my soul, and my car. You need to stay here or go wherever you else need to go, but just not home with me. Thank you. Yeah. But just like, in the living, not everybody pays attention and follows the rules. And if they're curious, like, well, maybe just this one time, yes, I have felt, some spirits come with me in my car because they're just curious. There are very few instances where they really kind of stay with me in my own spirit. It's very rare, but they'll go away within a day or two. It's also, I don't pay attention to them. I don't give them the attention, and they really just kind of get bored. Like, oh, this, why am I here? It's just nothing but books, and it's just random stuff and tchotchkes from where, it's boring. But I don't give it energy or attention. So if I'm not doing that, then there's no reason for it to stay. But it's very rare. So I don't like to say more there's attachment. There's more of a connection. There's a reason why a spirit is coming home or being with you. There's always a reason why. But sometimes I don't. But I know at Mansfield, I could feel a spirit come home or come back to the hotel. And I could just feel, I said, you know what? I don't know why I said it. I said, you know what? If you don't leave me right now, because he was kind of bugging me, he was making me agitated. I said, if you don't leave me now, you're going to go to hell. And I felt like he believed in hell, and he left like that. So why or how? It's you have to get into the mind of the spirit in some ways, or just experiment.
I kind of agree. So, it's almost like a mindset, right? Like, so
yeah.
If you are superstitious, then superstitious things will probably happen to you. It's if you think that doing something brings you bad luck, then you'll have bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there is a state of mind factor there, because our mind, our consciousness, our brain waves, it's energy. And you hear all kinds of people in multiple situations talking about putting out a protective shield or whatever. And I don't necessarily think you need to, sit down and like get in touch with the force in order to do that. I think that it is very much a state of mind that you can just get yourself into, kind of like, when you're playing sports or an instrument or creating art or whatever it is, and you kind of find yourself in that zone. Your brain just kind of knows, I think, what to do if you can train it well enough. And I think that if you do that, then maybe you don't have to bring a spirit home, right?
Mm-hmm. There's always, the possibility, and I don't want to dismiss anybody who has that experience. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but, you have to look at the whys and hows, and just, there's a lot there. I mean, it has happened to me, so I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But yeah, you're right. It's a lot of what you believe in. And just last, I know, as we're wrapping up, one thing is when people say they're scratched, and if you think about it, if someone's trying to get your attention, and I know spirits don't have, hands or fingers, but if someone's trying to get your attention, they use these three fingers. And I think a lot of spirits don't even know their power. So I think a lot of these scratches that happen are interaction and not a scratch. Maybe the spirit's trying to get your attention, so they reach out and go, hey, and it just happens to be three, because these are they're projecting that they think they have their hand. And so they're just getting your attention. So, and it may come up because that's how that's how they're influencing our skin. And, there is no, they can go through walls and they can go through our clothes. So I think I think a lot of times scratches and growls, there's always a humanistic reason for it.
So it's accidental, you're saying, in most cases?
I think label it and saying as it is, it's a scratch versus more of it's an interaction.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Mariah. This has been fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. It was great. I loved your questions.
Yeah. And if you're going to leave us with any words of wisdom before we go.
Oh my gosh. Words of wisdom. I think it's just, we all have our own experiences, and we make it for what it is. And I think if we're more open to the purpose and the love behind spirit interaction, along combining with our own senses and having those experiences, whether it's on an investigation or just even in life. And I think if we approach things with compassion and just wanting to understand and setting a good intention and then paying attention, I think we can all experience really neat things, neat synchronicities, and we can learn a lot from each other, but also we can learn about the spirit world. So if we learn more about each other, we can also put that onto learning about the spirit world and how they want to connect with us. So I think having an open mind and open heart is just so important. Not only how we live our life now on Earth, but also I think that'll only serve us better when we do transition. So.
All right. And what's your preferred website for people to find you?
I would say right now it's kind of a skeleton site, to be honest. But there's so much I need to add. It would be the paranormalconcierge.com. So the paranormalconcierge.com. I'm also on Facebook. So my business page is, again, the Paranormal Concierge. I'm on Twitter. It's at Para Concierge, not paranormal, but Para Concierge.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I think the website would be good.
All right. Thanks, Mariah. Have such a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight on Paranormal Now, live on kgradb.com, on Facebook, and on YouTube. If you want to find out more about upcoming shows, you can follow me on Twitter at paranormal_now. Please stay tuned for the Tracy Austin show coming up in just a moment. And as always, join us every week, Sundays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. KGRA, your official contact for the best in alternative talk radio. A special thank you to our KGRA Head of Operations, Eric Brager, and producer, Bill Skywatcher. And until next time, everyone, live in the mystery.